Same shirts for LSU. If you're looking for something different, you're looking for something unique, you're looking for something great to wear on game day, come see me, Sam Willard at Harper's Haberdashery.
Harper's Haberdashery, Highland Road next to French Market Bistro, just south of I-10. Visit them to get the best in LSU and Saints gear. Harper's Haberdashery.
Hanny time. Hanny time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hanny Time 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff along with Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp. 40 minutes from now, take you to the Brian Kelly press conference, and then we'll roll after that up until 1 o'clock. Talking about the Tigers' 13-10 win over Arkansas. It's amazing how context sort of changes everything. Work with me here for a minute. How would you feel about this particular game if LSU had missed the two-point conversion last week against Alabama? Because the game itself was not anything pretty. It wasn't one that you wanted to go back and watch time and time again. It was one that I thought that LSU would win most of the way, right up till the first play of the fourth quarter, the first drive of the fourth quarter, when Arkansas, with the backup quarterback, converts a 3rd and 17 and then scores a touchdown. Right up until that point, I thought that LSU was going to win a close, ugly game. My confidence was shaken a little bit at that point. I thought, wait, hang on, they're one fluke away from losing this thing. But what the salve on the wound all weekend, all day, Saturday, was if they win, they're going to Atlanta as long as Alabama does, their job later in the night, which they would do. And so the narrative becomes, and I'm the one doing, Jeremy and I are doing the post-game show, so we're feeding into this. It's euphoria because LSU's going to the SEC championship game, and absolutely nobody that was realistic about it would have thought that at the beginning of the season. I don't mean fans that just say, yeah, we're going every year. I'm talking about, give me some good, solid reasoning as to why LSU should be a favorite to go to Atlanta. There wasn't a whole lot before the season started. So when you take the context of you're getting to do something that was highly, highly unlikely, you kind of put the why in the background. And the why was that Harold Perkins had a performance for the ages on Saturday. I don't know that I've ever seen a defender affect a game quite so much other than maybe Tyrann Mathieu. I'm talking about for LSU. And it ranked up there with some of the great defensive performances that we've ever seen in the history of the Southeastern Conference. Every now and then, there's a defender that you have to scheme for. It happens at the professional level quite a lot, okay? You can't block Bruce Smith with a tackle and expect him to dominate and not get any help, all right? A regular defensive end, yeah. When teams play the Dallas Cowboys, okay, they got to know where Micah Parsons is because he's that good. At the college level, it's not nearly as common. But you saw Arkansas actually having to scheme to get Harold Perkins the hell away from the football. When they're putting trips out to one side where Perkins is acting as a nickel, they just want him somewhere away. 3 weeks ago, Lane Kiffin said, man, look, whole game changed when 40 got out there. Last week against Alabama, you better believe that Bryce Young knew where 40 was. And I give Kendall Browse and Sam Pittman credit. They knew going into the game, 40's a problem. We got to what can we do? We don't have anybody can block him by themselves. We got a quarterback that set track records, runs 100 in 10 seconds and change. But other than that, we don't have a whole lot that we can do with him. So let's just get him out of the box. Let's get him away. It worked for, really never. But they tried it. You had to do that. The play that he made, where he's going to the far side of the field, and he weaves his way through traffic, and he tracks Malik Hornsby down. Again, Malik Hornsby is a track athlete, okay? 10 and change in the 100. He's really, really, really fast. If you took every player in the Southeastern Conference and put them on a track in track spikes and said, run the 100, Malik Hornsby would be right up at the front. But on this field, Perkins is faster than him. On grass, in gear, Perkins is faster than anybody out there. I always said the fastest player I ever saw play football, run track, whatever. I mean, I understand that, Willie Gault and Skeets Nehemiah and those guys, they were great track athletes. But the fastest football player I ever saw in gear on grass was Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was the fastest guy out there every time he took the field when I watched him play. And he had closing speed. He had a dynamic outlook on the game on how he wanted to attack it. He's one of the greatest, players I've ever seen. This kid has that kind of closing speed. I'm not telling you he could beat Deion Sanders in the 40, back in 1987. I don't know. All I know is I don't see anybody that's this fast. So when he's got to weave through traffic and track Malik Hornsby down on the far side of the field, nobody makes that play. There is not. I have never seen you don't make that play one time out of 100 on an ordinary player. But between the weaving in, first of all, diagnosing the play and then weaving yourself through that traffic, and when you do all of that, then you still got to catch this track guy, and he did. And between causing the fumble, the sacks. Hornsby had to be completely spooked by the idea that, just like Dart was a few weeks ago, Kevin says, man, where's 40? And Dart comes to the president, where's 40? Bryce Young, he didn't say it after the game, but you had to be thinking, where's 40? Malik Hornsby was definitely thinking, where's 40? Never seen a guy do the things that he's done. We went into a little bit more depth on this on the podcast. The podcast is posted. Gordy went through some of the things that schematically Arkansas did to try to get him out of there. Podcast is posted right now at 1045ESPN.com and wherever you get your podcast. So we talked a little bit about that and went into a little bit more depth on the podcast. Now I want to move on to the offensive side of the ball. And this was obviously the ugly part of the game. What I thought happened in the first quarter of this game was that Jaden Daniels, who has come miles from the beginning of the season, his path very well defined here by everybody the last week or so, where he's come from and where he is now. He started off as unsure of the receivers that he had, maybe didn't have that trust factor, was indoctrinating himself into the offense, was running probably a little bit too quickly, and then through the month of September, focused so intently on not turning the ball over that he wasn't playing aggressively, wasn't giving his receivers a chance to make plays. In October, that started to change. It started to change in the Tennessee game. It really changed in the Florida game, and then as you got to Ole Miss and Alabama, he became a very confident player, somebody who was playing aggressively and doing all those things that they had wanted him to do from the beginning, but it took some time. On Saturday, after he threw the first interception, I thought he started to play a little tentatively. The second drive, LSU was a 3-and-out. They did have a flag on that drive. And then the next drive, where they're backed up inside their own 10-yard line, he rides the back, but the fumble doesn't happen at the mesh point. He's got the ball out, and this is just a straight fumble. And after that, I thought he was unnerved. I thought it was in his head after that, and he reverted back to the Daniels that played in September, somebody that was very, very tentative, certainly was, no matter what happened, if he had to eat the football or not, he was not going to turn it over again. I've had people ask me, asked in the postgame show, what do you think of the game that Mike Denbrock called? I don't know, because for all I know, he may have called half a dozen more shots down the field or more plays that have worked in the last month, and Daniels just simply would not let go of the football. He was holding it way, way too long, as if to say, listen, if I'm not absolutely 100% sure that I can get it there, there's not going to be any 50-50 balls today. I'm not going to put the ball in harm's way. I'm not going to give my receivers a chance to make a mistake that's going to turn the ball over. And listen, you got to give LSU's offensive line credit, and you got to give Josh Williams some credit, because once Arkansas figured that out, they were facing some pretty stacked fronts, and Josh Williams ran the ball extremely hard. And those were tough yards that he got up there. And, the rest of the things about, Arkansas is motivated to play in this game, and LSU, this is always, the potential for a flat spot. They said that stuff all week, and I get why. But you get up there in the cold weather, and a couple of things don't go your way early, and it's like, okay, you're in a game. What did we say last week? Since they moved this series from Little Rock to Fayetteville, LSU's average margin of victory has been 5 points. So you knew that it was going to be I think the question becomes now, and as much as I dislike non-conference games in November, this one actually probably comes at a really good time for Jaden Daniels, because they can get back, and you don't have to go out on the road and play Florida this week or play Ole Miss this week, or certainly don't have to play an Alabama this week. You're going to say, hey, listen, remember that guy from October all the way through the Alabama game? Go get him on the phone and bring him back. The guy that played Saturday, you got away with it. You got out, but that was the guy from earlier. That was the guy that was worried about turning the ball over. Listen, ball slipped out of your hand, bummer. Okay, you threw an interception. If that drive goes differently, I think it's a different Jaden Daniels that day. I'm not telling you that he would have had another game like he had against Alabama, but that throw was not a throw that was made, the interception was not there because he made a bad decision or he misread something. It was simply a bad throw. He said the ball slipped out of his hands, and I believe him. I mean, the ball's picked off, right past the line of scrimmage. So you just got to, hey, bummer, man. You know what happens to everybody. Anybody can, have a ball slip out of their hands, but I thought it was in his head. So I think it's an easy fix. But it's all psychological. It's not in any way that Daniels can't make that throw or, is not, doesn't have the right approach to the game, is not working hard. It's just, hey, man, he made a bad throw and it got in his head and it was there all day. And when you do all those things, again, context. If LSU hadn't beaten Alabama, you'd be sitting there going, all right, is LSU, instead of being 8-2 and going to the SEC championship game, you were 7-3 or 6-4 if you'd happen to lose this game. It's like, okay, well, we had a little run, but now you're reverting back. It's the margin is that close. He could have had the bad throw in the 2-point conversion last week. He didn't. He converted that one. Could have had one more play go Arkansas's way and you lose this game on Saturday. You didn't. There is something to be said for getting a guy out with your second best pitch. And LSU didn't throw their best fastball on Saturday, but they won. And again, the context of it is they're going to the SEC championship game. So a lot to digest. We'll hear from Brian Kelly again at we'll send you there at 11:40. We'll take a break, come back and get with the rest of what happened in the NFL. As good as you feel about LSU, you probably feel quite 100% opposite about the Saints, but we'll get into that as well. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge. I've bought my vehicles there for the past 20 years, and when you go to the certified pre-owned program, there's so many different benefits that you get from it. First of all, the up to the 6 years unlimited mileage warranty, a complimentary first-year basic maintenance package. These vehicles on the pre-owned lot have gone through a comprehensive 167-point inspection, so you know that your vehicle is up to code. They're going to give you a free 3-month trial subscription to Sirius Satellite Radio. They're going to give you a 3-year buyback guarantee, emergency roadside assistance, which is very, very important for your older drivers or your younger drivers, and a complimentary service courtesy vehicle every time that your vehicle needs maintenance. You don't have to arrange for transportation or wait around for your vehicle to be serviced. Transparency in pricing, family owned and operated. It's why we're going back time and time again to Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.
Professional golfers John Peterson and JJ Colleen answer all your golf and life questions inside the new Drop Biscuit Studios podcast for the people. Download or subscribe today at dropbiscuit.com.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice?
Join us for a Monday edition of Hunt and Hill. Do we have flights booked for Atlanta? And did the Saints take care of business in the Steel City? Hunt and Hill, 1 to 3, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannigreth on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We had a first on the post-game show on Saturday night. First time we've ever played Dixieland Delight. Jeremy's idea. It was really good. We obviously watched Alabama and Ole Miss, play to what was a really, really exciting conclusion. And Alabama. It's not very often that find myself rooting for Alabama. There's got to be a really good reason. There's got to be a benefit for LSU, or there's got to be some kind of financial inducement for me to root for Alabama. But definitely did on Saturday night, and they got home. It was not easy, but they were able to survive a late run by Ole Miss. Got inside the 20-yard line, but Alabama's defense held up. So Tigers in the SEC championship game in Georgia has clinched as well. So there is there's your matchup. Saints lose yesterday to the Steelers 20-10, fall to 3-7 on the season. We have reached the what do we have on the spaceship that's good portion of the Saints season. And frankly, there's not a whole lot. By the time this game kicked off, Pittsburgh, who was 2-8, 2-6 going into the game, was a favorite, a small favorite in this game, even with Kenny Pickett, a rookie quarterback making, his fifth start, I believe it was. The Saints had most of their offensive line on the shelf. It was a revamped group. They couldn't run the football at all. Really didn't even try a whole lot to run the football. Alvin Kamara had eight carries in the game. Andy Dalton, another tough run for him. We again didn't see much out of Taysom Hill. Didn't want to seem to get him involved very much. About all that they had going for him was Jawan Johnson made a few catches, but this game, and somebody tell me, not only are they bad, they're boring too. And this person was right. There's not a whole lot that you look at and you go, yeah, that is really working well. They got after Pickett a little bit yesterday. They sacked him 6 times, but from what I was watching yesterday, most of the time the Saints' pressure came because Pickett just simply held the ball too long, which is not unusual for rookie quarterbacks. So the pressure eventually got to him, and they sacked him, but it wasn't like the Saints were getting this massive push on the defensive line yesterday, and Pittsburgh ran the ball up and down the field on them. I mean, Najee Harris had his yards, but there were like 3 or 4 other guys, that Pickett got his yards. And, even when they were handing the ball to George Pickens, they were making yards. I don't know. Obviously, this season is shot. They're stop with the, they're in a bad division. The only thing that's been keeping this season afloat for the last few weeks is that the division is as bad as it was. Well, Tampa went over to Germany, and what was that a party, huh? You see that? Those folks were having a good time at that football game. But Tampa's found itself enough to where the Saints aren't going to catch them, and even if they did, there's not any hope that this team could put together a deep run. I've heard, well, blow it up then. But blow what up? Blowing it up insinuates that you have younger players on the bench that are not playing in the interest of veterans who are a little bit further along, and you don't want the rookies to go in there and make rookie mistakes. Who fits that category? Who's not playing that you would say, well, go ahead and put him in there? Penning, if he comes back and, is healthy enough to play in the back part of the season. But other than that, you want to change quarterbacks again? You want to go back to James? I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't think it's gonna fix anything. You want to get some of these guys back off of injured off of the injured list. It would be nice to have Marshawn Lattimore back. It would be nice to have some of those offensive linemen back. You're not going to get Michael Thomas back, and Jarvis Landry looks like a shell of his former self. I mean, he looks like a player that's got a lot of miles on the odometer. Jarvis was, one of the most physical wide receivers to ever come through here, and that's the way he plays the game. And now he looks like a guy that has, all of those passes that he caught those first 3 years in the league, he had the most catches. Well, it looks like it started to take a toll on him, and he just doesn't have he doesn't look like the Jarvis Landry that was with Miami or that was with Cleveland. He's an older player. Same thing with Tyrann Mathieu. He's still a good player, but he's no longer the impact guy that he was when he was, pretty much the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. You've got a quarterback that is in there, and they seem really averse to making a move. When Dennis Allen was asked after the game about making a quarterback change, he says, I'm not going there right now. Well, something has got to be in his head that Jameis Winston would be worse than this. And this is pretty bad. Andy Dalton was never intended to come in here and be the starting quarterback. That was never the plan. The plan was to bring in an experienced backup so that if Winston did get hurt and Dalton had to play 3, 4, 5 games that he would do what Teddy Bridgewater did when Drew Brees got hurt. You go in, you play 5 games. They said, listen, if you can get 3 wins in 5 games, then that's great. Well, Teddy got 5. Dalton, but the plan was never for Teddy Bridgewater to be the long-term starting quarterback. It was never for Andy Dalton to be the long-term starting quarterback either. Yet they seem loath to make a move to go back. And I'm not saying that if they went back that would improve things enough to where you would say, well, and the Saints are back on track. So again, what do you have on the spaceship that's good? You beat the Raiders 2 weeks ago, and everybody felt pretty good about that. You got a shutout. Shutouts are hard in the NFL. But did you watch the Raiders yesterday? The AFC West has the worst collection of coaches outside of Andy Reid that I think I've ever seen in one division. Okay? You have Andy Reid and 3 guys who are in over their skis. Jeff Saturday was sitting at his house last Sunday. Okay? Probably had lunch, sat down, watched football, went to church. In fact, I know because I read it this morning. They went to church, they came home, they had lunch, they watched the games, and then he was going to get on a flight to go to ESPN to do, his weekly media responsibilities. Jim Irsay called him and said, man, will you come here and be the head coach? And Jeff Saturday, who's never coached outside of high school, said, sure, I can be there. Shows up on Monday, puts a guy in that's never called plays in a game before. Saturday's never been a coach outside of high school before. They beat the Raiders yesterday. I mean, the guy was literally having lunch after church with his wife last week. He walks in the building and says, yeah, we can beat the Raiders. And they did. They went out to so the win over the Raiders doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy. It was it's an NFL game, so you take wins wherever you can get them. But the win over the Raiders doesn't really do anything for me. You got nobody on offense that right now is scaring anybody. And it's not that there's not talent out there. And Alvin Kamara is a great football player, but every time Alvin Kamara touches the football, I feel like there's 6 people around him. Nothing that they do is particularly surprising or creative. I'm talking about the coaches in the AFC West, but let's be real honest. Dennis Allen has done a lousy job. Is it going to improve? Will he get better? I don't know. But through these 10 games, there hasn't been one time where I've looked at the Saints this year and gone, wow, that was well designed. Wow, that was well played. Basically what you had here is a 1-point win over overachieving, but not quite as bad as I thought they would be, Atlanta Falcons team, the win over the Raiders, which you just talked about, and a win over Seattle where Taysom Hill went nuts. And they obviously decided we can't have any more of that because since Taysom Hill had that great game against the Seahawks, he's been in the witness protection program. They seem adverse to use him very much. Almost like it's, you just want to keep him back there as an insurance policy. Well, okay, do that if you will. So to recap, bad on offense, bad on defense, nondescript on special teams, bad on the sidelines. That pretty much covered? I think so. Got it. All right, take a break. We will come back here and a few more thoughts about what went on in college football this weekend before we send you to the press conference. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Hey, the guys over at Big Mike's want to say congratulations to Denham Springs, winner in the first round of the playoffs. They are headed to Benton, Louisiana. Where's Benton? It's north of Shreveport. Probably be a little bit chilly when Denham goes up there this Friday. Folks at Big Mike's, they're such an integral part of what's going on in Denham Springs. Kind of, it's just in the heart of the city, the fabric of the city of Denham Springs. They've even got the Denham Springs Hall of Fame at Big Mike's. And so the game is on the road this week, but the restaurant is still open late. If you're coming in from other high school football games as we get deeper into the playoffs, Big Mike's with daily lunch specials and live music on Thursdays and Fridays. Sunday for the Saints, and you need happy hour drink prices because if you're going to watch the Saints, you probably need a cocktail. That is all day at Big Mike's on Sundays for NFL football. Big Mike's on Aspen, we're kind of a big deal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When I was a boy, I spent my days climbing trees, catching fish. Barefoot in the river I walked, listening to crickets, counting stars. This was home. After my stroke, I wondered if I'd make it back to the people and places I love. But I got the right doctors with Blue Cross coverage. Your card matters. Your home does too.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off MSRP plus 2.9% for 60 months on new 2022 Ford F-150s. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty and free delivery. If you need sales or service, the crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Enter now for a chance to win a catch and cook fishing experience from the Louisiana Charter Boat Association with me, Chef Jay Ducote, winner of Beat Bobby Flay. Register now at gocatch.com. That's GEAUX catch.com.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Want more customers? Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers. Visit us online at runningboardsmarketing.com so we can drive your message to where the people are.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We'll recap a busy weekend on the gridiron, LSU at Arkansas, Saints, Steelers. Join us Monday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time, your sports break during your lunch break with Charles Annegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Authorities in Virginia have apprehended a suspect in the killing of 3 Virginia football players. This is one of the most disturbing stories that you will ever see. They had a news conference. They have found the man. He was identified as Christopher Jones Jr. He was on the team back in 2018 as a freshman. There was a bus coming back last night to University of Virginia. He shot 5 people. 3 of them are football players who he killed. The other 2 were wounded in this. They have taken him into custody right now. They had a shelter in place on the Virginia campus until about 10:30 this morning. So we'll keep I'm without words for that one. I got plenty of words though for the rest of the college football weekend. One play in particular stood out to me. I don't want to get into the whole analytics versus non-analytics, and should you kick the field goal? Field goals are worthless, by the way. They used to be worth 3 points, now they're worth 0. But what Oregon did, okay, even blew me away, because I really got to have a heart-to-heart conversation with Dan Lanning about this call. If you missed it, this is a tie ball game with Washington and Oregon, 34-34, with a minute and a half to go in regulation. And Oregon is playing 4th and 1 from their own 34-yard line, and Bo Nix is out of the game. Okay, Bo Nix was hurt at that point. Now, Oregon's got some stuff to play for here. Oregon, with a one-loss Pac-12 title, is right there in the playoff mix. So this is in no way an insignificant game. And Washington had played the lights out. I thought they had a puncher's chance going in to win this thing, but they're right there with a minute and a half to go. And Lanning decides to go for it from his own 34-yard line with a minute and a half to go, with his star quarterback on the sideline. I'm going to need a judge's ruling on this. What the hell are you thinking? Even if you make it, okay, you still are on your end of the field, okay? What the risk-reward factor here doesn't add up to me. And, of course, they missed it because the football gods, if nothing else, are going to punish you if you do this kind of stuff. Look, I don't want to be get-off-your-lawn guy, but some of the decisions that coaches are making now and just – I don't know if he's pointing to analytics. I don't know if they thought they had a play or whatever. But you're going to have to explain to me why, with your guy ailing and on your end and a minute and a half to go, why you're going for it there. Didn't get that one. Was one of the more interesting scenes I thought this weekend was in a game that really didn't have a lot of bearing on much of anything, but did you see Auburn beat Texas A&M? Did you see that crowd? Did you see that coach? I got to hand it to Cadillac Williams, not because they won the game. I mean, this is two bad teams. One that's definitely not going to a bowl, and the other one that needs a big upset to get to 6-6 and get to a bowl. But for an interim coach to come in and put some life into a team at that point in the season, I got to hand it to him. We've seen interim coaches catch fire before, but almost always it's when there's an early move. I mean, the Phillies, right? Okay, the Phillies changed managers early in the season, and they made it all the way to the World Series. Ed Orgeron, okay, early in the season, got LSU going, did enough to get him the job. But the most Steve Fisher, the most famous one of all. Got the Michigan job right before the NCAA tournament, rode it all the way to the national championship. But when you get an interim coach that goes in for a team that is not playing for a whole lot and gets them to play as hard as Auburn is playing and gets the fan base going in this, what have you done for me lately? And if we're not playing for championships, we're not really interested sports fan today, to get them to go to be as into the game as they were for a team that, at best is going to go to a very, very low tier bowl. I thought that was I thought that was tremendous. I mean, I don't think he's going to get that job, but what he's done the last couple of weeks to get them interested in playing hard, I don't think is any small thing. Bummer for Tulane. Had opportunities, but just put themselves in too big of a hole. UCF came out and kind of punched them in the mouth early, and the Wave just could never catch up. But that was another there was another historic thing. Tulane hadn't hosted a top 20 ranked matchup since the 40s. They come up just a little bit short against UCF. And the Vanderbilt Commodores, congratulations. First conference win in 3 years. If I had known that they were going to do this, I wouldn't have nearly been as stressed out as I was in September with my win total. I mean, I am grinding on the Hawaii game in week 0. Well, if I'd have known they were going to be this good, I would win that thing with room to spare. And listen, I understand measurables, and I love the draft process, and that's a whole lot of fun. But at some point, you actually have to play well. And if I'm drafting Will Levis, I'm thinking about drafting Will Levis with, a top 5 pick. I got to go back and look at this film and go, wait a minute. I know you're big. I know you're strong. I know you're fast. And, I know you got all those measurables. It's a wonderful thing. But, man, in the biggest spots, play like crap. I'm sorry. Tennessee, Ole Miss, now against Vanderbilt. You got some splaining to do. All right, we'll take you to the press conference. Come back on the other side. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The following is an exclusive presentation of the LSU Sports Radio Network. Welcome in to the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Download the ASAP app today. Coming up, head coach Brian Kelly discusses the week ahead for LSU Fighting Tiger football. But first, from inside the Capital One LSU Sports Radio Network studios, here are former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Well, after LSU went to Fayetteville, got the job done later on, once the Tigers arrived back here in Baton Rouge via charter, we all found out LSU, the 2022 SEC West champions. Welcome in, everybody, to the Brian Kelly Press Conference, again delivered by ASAP.com. Coming up, leads you up to 12 noon. Coach Brian Kelly will talk about this past Saturday's game and getting prepared for another matchup, this time out of conference. Coming up, a late one on a Saturday night in Death Valley. Out of Conference UAB, it'll be USA, I should say. It'll be UAB, the Blazers, coming in again with kickoff just after 8 o'clock. Before we get started and break down this past Saturday's game and the win over Arkansas, Gordy, I wanted to take a moment to just send our heartbreak today after many of us got up. There was a shooting overnight at the University of Virginia involving University of Virginia football players, and tragically 3 have died, 2 surviving, and in that shooting, one of which close to home, Mike Hollins, star running back at U High here in Baton Rouge, a junior running back for the Cavaliers. So we certainly want to send our best wishes to Hollins, of course, his family here, and all of his friends and former schoolmates. But our heart breaks today for the University of Virginia and obviously the Cavalier football team.
Yeah, from what little we're hearing, Hollins undergoing surgery should survive this, but prayers and thoughts, that whole Virginia family up there. Tragic situation.
All right, let's talk about LSU and Arkansas. We sat here last week during the Brian Kelly press conference, and we talked about some of the strengths of Arkansas versus the strengths of LSU, the weaknesses as well. But we kind of felt like it was going to be a physical game. We knew the weather and the conditions would be different. I don't know that you could say had an impact, didn't have an impact on the play of LSU, but it certainly was different with kickoff 34 degrees. And when we arrived, there were nothing but ice covering the playing surface. They got that cleaned up. I don't think the surface for the most part had an issue. But LSU find a way to win. And, that's one of the things Coach Kelly, I'm sure, will say again. He said it after the game. He was proud of the team. Never easy to win in the SEC on the road. And when things didn't go their way early, they still kept fighting and got out of there with a 13-10 win, which, as I said, led to a SEC West championship.
Absolutely. And let's start with LSU's defense, who played lights out. The fortunate break for LSU, KJ Jefferson was ruled out, did not play in this football game, so they faced the second and third string quarterbacks. But still, look, this is the SEC. You've got plenty of talent on all these rosters, but LSU's defense was dominant. They adjusted to 2 different styles of play with the different quarterbacks that played in the game. Malik Hornsby, obviously was more of a sprinter. He was a sprinter in college, rather than high school, 100, 200-meter guy, and wanted to run the football, and it was spread the run sort of attack. And then Cade Forden, the transfer from North Carolina and South Florida, came in and threw the football a little bit more success. But LSU's defense had a whale of an afternoon.
Well, we really got to spend a lot of time on the defense, and it starts with Harold Perkins Jr. No surprise, maybe a half hour ago, the SEC announcing he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. No brainer there. 8 tackles, Gordy, in the game, 6 solo, 4 sacks, ties a single-game record for LSU going back to 1995. And albeit maybe a half second away from coming away with 6 and a third strip. He was 3 strips in the game, including the big one to seal the victory for LSU. But, I mean, it was as if Arkansas they had no answer. I mean, I think he was a big factor into why they went from Hornsby.
Yeah.
When Perkins was spying him, that shut down Hornsby quick. So they said, hey, we got to be able to throw the ball. And Perkins still disrupted what they wanted to do. He was unstoppable Saturday.
And the ultimate sign of respect for me is when coaches start mentioning you by name. And we know what Lane Kiffin said about
Twice.
Perkins.
2 weeks in a row.
Look, Kendall Browse came out, and Arkansas went with a new look. And, of course, this was a new quarterback, but a 1-by-3 personnel in terms of spreading the football field with trips. And by running trips formation and Harold Perkins coming on as the nickelback, by alignment, he had to go line up on the second wide receiver in that trips formation. Basically, they're just taking him out of the football play.
Right.
You go cover space. We want to get 40 out of the box. And slowly but surely, as the game went on, Matt House was able to make some adjustments. And you're exactly right. Perkins came in. He came in as a spy when Hornsby was on the football field, and they shut down a lot of that spread the run stuff. And then when they went to Forden, Perkins went back to that outside linebacker nickel sort of position and just wreaked havoc on the Arkansas quarterback.
You know, it's one of those things, Gordy, where I've been here 7 years now and never pretend to know all the great history. I know bits and pieces, but when you hear a lot of people who have followed this program for a long, long time, with all of the great defensive players that have been here, and suddenly on Saturday afternoon and into the evening, you hear Tyrann Matthews and Harold Perkins Jr. in the same kind of category, that tells me the impact he's having.
I mean, you're skipping Devin White and Debo Jones. I mean, 2 fantastic linebackers that can run, that have made the Pro Bowl. He's been fantastic, and think about it, he's just scratching the surface. I mean, he knows pieces of this defense. You feel like they've got him in the spy role, and they've got him blitzing off the edge roll. Wait till he gets a year under his belt, and he understands fully what Matt House is trying to do with this defense.
Defensively, LSU, again, I think winning the game, a big part of that, Harold Perkins Jr. Now, you moving forward, out of conference against UAB. We'll talk about the Blazers coming up in the next segment. But, Gordy, we said on this show, Coach Kelly said on Monday, he told me on Thursday night at his radio show that a lot of respect for Barry Odom, defensive coordinator. Sure. Immediately following that game, you hear all of the analysts talk about, hey, maybe this is the guidebook. This is the map now against what Jaden Daniels has been able to do over the last 4 weeks. Basically 3 down linemen, 8 defensive backs trying to cover all of the territory and daring LSU to run the ball. We'll talk about the running game, which I thought was very effective, especially when they needed it. But defensively, do we expect to see – 2 questions. Do we expect to see this moving forward? And, again, is there anybody else left on the schedule outside of Georgia in that title game in Atlanta that have the personnel? Because we forget, while they had 8 defensive backs, they still had really 2 good linebackers, Bumper Poole and Drew Sanders, who I think were almost kind of the in-betweeners there to help defend against LSU.
I don't think the LSU is going to see a 3-3-5 or this 3-5-3 look that we've seen out of Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and out of Arkansas. Not sure. UAB's traditionally they play a 4-man front, 2 linebackers, and they'll play a little bit of nickel. I mean, but to your point, I think that schematically they brought a lot of pressure on this LSU football team. And this offense simply did not get in rhythm. And so the majority offensively of, I think, the attack zones, running between the tackles with the running back, getting Daniels on the edge in the pass run game, and then getting some of the short passing game. The latter two things I mentioned just were not on. And so what did work was between the tackles and Josh Williams, as you mentioned, 118 yards on 18 carries.
Yeah, again, a career high for Josh Williams there. 7 sacks, 5 in the first half by the Arkansas defense, the most in any half by any team in the SEC up to that point. And I think you were on the sidelines. We saw it from our vantage point. There were times where it looked like the coaching staff thought Jaden held the ball a little long. That resulted in a couple of those sacks, something that he had done a little bit better. But again, I don't know if it was the temperature, the weather, the look defensively. It just looked like, as you said, wasn't comfortable and just couldn't release the football.
You know, the word I keep using with Jaden Daniels is rhythm. And I felt like he just wasn't decisive. There was a lot of indecision, and he was kind of feeling his way. Looked like some earlier games, and it's one of those things. I think you go in and you look at the tape last night, this morning. You show it to him. These are the things that we need to correct, and then quickly get back on the practice field and get back in rhythm. A lot of this offense, they like to go in tempo, and once Daniels gets into a comfort zone like he had been the prior 3 games, that's where you want to be, and hopefully just write this off as, look, it was cold. We're coming off the Alabama win. We were out of sync. Let's fix some of the things. There are penalties, there were drops, there are other things that went on there, and get this offense back into the rhythm that they perform best in.
Again, as Gordy mentioned, Josh Williams, excellent day running the ball when they needed it. Had the lone touchdown for LSU in a tight game where that one was huge. And, of course, Damian Ramos with 2 field goals. You needed every point you could get. LSU able to survive 13-10, get out of a chilly and cold Fayetteville, get back to what it was. I was laughing because some of the players we got off the plane in Baton Rouge in the evening, they were like, wait a minute, I thought we left Fayetteville. It was a little cooler, but I think everybody's more comfortable right here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Want to mention as well, we don't know as of yet, but we're expecting maybe about the time Coach Kelly takes the podium, we will have an idea of when LSU and Texas A&M will get together in Bryan College Station in the regular season finale coming up 2 weeks, or rather 1 week from this coming weekend. So we'll try to pass that along to you before we're done. Don't know it yet. We're going to take a time out. When we come back, we'll kind of give you what we know about the Blazers, who picked up a pretty solid win over North Texas this past Saturday. We'll find out what Gordy knows about UAB. Want to remind you to download the ASAP app. Get all of your game day needs delivered right to your door. ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. And don't forget to use the code TIGERS22. You'll get free delivery, also a chance to win some autographed items and maybe even some tickets. So go to asap.com. Again, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Back to talk about UAB as we lead you up to the Brian Kelly press conference delivered by the aforementioned asap.com.
Albertsons is making shopping and saving easier than ever. Check out Albertsons For You in our mobile app where you can shop for groceries and save weekly with digital coupons all in one place. With Albertsons For You, you can earn rewards points every time you shop and redeem them for free groceries. Brand new Albertsons For You members receive $5 off their next $25 purchase just for signing up. Download the Albertsons app or go to albertsons.com to sign up. Albertsons, fresh food, local flavors.
Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU Athletics. From game day to the offseason, Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
What if I told you there was an amazing treatment that could give you back your energy, help you sleep better, improve your gains in the gym, and likely help your sex life as well? This is Jeff for the Baton Rouge Men's Clinic, and that treatment exists. It's called testosterone replacement therapy, and if you're low T, you'll likely be thrilled with the results. Testosterone replacement therapy provides a host of benefits. If you're like most of the men we treat, you'll feel so much more like the guy you used to be, with better sleep patterns, improved vitality and clarity, greater strength and energy, and a higher libido. At the Baton Rouge Men's Clinic, we've treated thousands of men for low T. Our protocols are highly effective, with most men seeing results in a few weeks. So give us a call. Just $99 gets you a PSA and T-test and a medical consult. And if you start on testosterone the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Call 225-323-8000, that's 225-323-8000, or go to BatonRougeMen'sClinic.com. Baton Rouge Men's Clinic, the leader in men's sexual health.
Coach Kelly is just moments away from previewing the week for the Fighting Tigers. This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Once again, here are Gordy and Chris.
Coming up at 8 o'clock this coming Saturday, LSU will host UAB out of conference before finishing up the season in Bryan College Station against Texas A&M. UAB coming in 5-5 on the year, 3-4 in Conference USA play. As I mentioned earlier, picked up a win, 41-21 over North Texas, beating the Mean Green this past Saturday. And Gordy, we can talk about a number of things. It was 2015, there was no football at UAB. Eventually, they raise a little bit of money, make a little noise. In 2017, they're back in business. Coach Clark was part of that entire transition. And then earlier this summer, with back issues, just walked away from coaching. So they still have an interim head coach. Darren Henshaw, who I'm aware of, worked with at Georgia Southern as the offensive coordinator. But when you talk offense with UAB, I guess you got to start with the one of the leading rushers in the country, Dwayne McBride, who is averaging right around 156 yards per game, leads FBS football.
Yeah, and they've got two running backs, and Jermaine Brown is got 70 yards per game. I mean, when you talk about your 1-2 running backs going for 230, 240 per game, that's what they want to do. Mixed results at the quarterback position. Dylan Hopkins is a guy that returned from a year ago. It's more of a thrower. He's throwing for about 183 per game, and they brought over Jacob Zeno in the transfer portal from Baylor, a little bit more of a dual-threat guy. And both have played, and both have actually started some of these games, so they haven't been elite at the quarterback position. They want to run the football.
Yeah, when you look at, again, what they've done this season, they've been in some close games and lost some close games. I mentioned they're 5-5 on the year, but when you look at their overall schedule, it's not as if, they've been blown out. I mean, they've handed a couple of blowouts, including this past week. But they've been right there on the cusp. That 5-5 may be a little deceiving.
It is a little deceiving. Look, they've lost by an average of just over 5 points per game. They lost 2 weeks ago to Texas San Antonio, who's an up-and-coming program in that conference, 44-38. And then they lost, had a 3-game stretch where they lost. They're on the road to Western Kentucky, Florida Atlantic. I mentioned UTSA before getting back to winning ways against North Texas. So, look, UAB traditionally has been a salty team, mid D1 sort of team. They're a step back from where they were under Bill Clark, but still, LSU doesn't come and play. It could be a tough night in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, you mentioned that UTSA game. That, by the way, in that close game was double overtime for the Roadrunners to pull away with the victory. You mentioned it's important to pick up a win for Coach Kelly. Not trying to guesstimate what the coach is going to say, but the approach this week, coming off the way the Tigers played this past Saturday, what do you think the emphasis is for LSU?
I think offense getting back to who LSU's identity is, right? We're going to go quick, explosive, and attacking. It felt like in that football game, that was the first time in a while that LSU was on their heels. They had been the aggressor against Florida, against Ole Miss, and, of course, against Alabama. I think getting back to that and getting the mindset right there, defensively, continue to do what you've been doing. Continue. This is a good matchup. I think that if you've got a pocket quarterback then they want to run the football, LSU could really get after you and attack with the people they have. And then overall, Chris, just cleaning up some of the penalties. It was a sloppy game. And look, we've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this, the sideline, been around this for a while. LSU just after Alabama in Fayetteville, LSU doesn't get up for Arkansas the same way Arkansas gets up for LSU. It is what it is. How do you get back to getting to that consistency that Coach Kelly and his staff preach day in, day out?
That leads me to one of the points I wanted to talk about, because, again, you find out when you arrive back in Baton Rouge, you are the SEC West champions, which nobody but those guys in that locker room believed back in August had a feeling or belief at all. We all know that. But you come in, and Coach Kelly says it all the time. He talked about it on Thursday. This is a journey. There is no destination. And while everybody's going to pump these guys up about being the SEC West champs and coming out of nowhere and surprising and all this other stuff, it comes down to, as you said, doing the same things they've been doing since Coach Kelly really got his hands on them in January.
Right, you're favored over UAB. Texas A&M, we're all aware of what's going on over there right now. I think the focus is on today. And if I'm in that meeting room, I'm Coach Kelly, I'm saying, guys, we got a long way to go before we're going to be able to compete with Georgia in this SEC championship. And it starts today. How do we get better today? Focus on getting better today. And if we do that, UAB should take care of itself.
What do you think the atmosphere will be like? Again, with the last chance to see LSU in 2022 play at home, it is out of conference. It is UAB against a 500 team. But you are kind of celebrating the effort up to this point. Not finished, as we've all certainly demonstrated. I don't want Coach Kelly to hear that we think we've arrived. But from an atmosphere, late game, I mean, what do you think it's going to be like in Tiger Stadium?
I think it's going to be a lot better than a usual non-conference game, all the circumstances. Plus, you get the 1 hour of festivities before this kickoff, Chris. So I think it'll be a loud Tiger Stadium.
Again, it'll be just after 8 o'clock, LSU and UAB. Going to be a running attack expected for the Blazers. LSU trying to get their offense back on track. I mentioned, by the way, that Ramos with 2 made field goals. First time he's done that in a game, so kudos to him on special teams. Your overall thought, because I thought we came away from the Alabama game feeling a little bit better. The improvements have been made. This past Saturday, special teams for you.
Special teams, maybe a step back. There were some mistakes out there, but look, Ramos kicks the 2 big field goals in tough conditions. It was cold. It was windy. We know what the field was like. I thought that was a plus. But Chris, with the overall game, I think you look at that, you realize it is what it is. It was the week after Alabama. It's a win. And you don't sit there and cry over a win that you on the road in this conference, and you move on. And again, focus on today. How do we get better for UAB?
All right. Well, we're waiting for Coach Brian Kelly. We're told he is just about moments away from taking to the podium. Just looking around the SEC this past weekend, the atmosphere at Auburn was something to behold. Congratulations to Cadillac on the big win and really the big celebration. Ole Miss and Alabama. A lot of us pulling for the Tide this past Saturday. They get the job done. Again, Ole Miss coming up short with a chance late in that game. Some other kind of musings across the SEC Saturday.
Yeah, I still hadn't gotten a full time to see Georgia, but, Mike Leach and Mississippi State gave them some fits for a while until Georgia had a chance to pull away. And then how about Vanderbilt? Big win at Kentucky on the road, their first win in 3 years.
And that Florida win for LSU starting to look a little better, too.
Yes, it is.
All right, let's go to the podium. Here's Coach Brian Kelly.
Good morning. Certainly a very tragic day in Charlottesville, and our thoughts and prayers are with the football players at Virginia who were senseless victims of shooting on their campus early this morning. It's tragic. Our hearts go out to them, the football program, the university. Just senseless violence. College campuses should be a place where it's violent-free, and what happened yesterday is certainly heartbreaking, and we certainly pray for all those involved, and certainly hits close to home as well. Having players that actually had relationships with players on the team. So again, thoughts and prayers with everybody involved, and we will certainly keep an eye on this matter. So. With that, we'll move on to this weekend, and obviously last weekend, our football team was challenged for 4 quarters against an Arkansas football team that we knew was going to be difficult to play at Fayetteville, and they were. They were well prepared. They were well coached for the game, and quite frankly, I think our guys, look, winning's a habit and losing's a habit. And, what we can take out from that game is that they have done the things necessary to make winning a habit. And just like losing becomes a habit, they found a way to win that football game. And, we had some guys that had superlative, performances. Harold Perkins was certainly the SEC Player of the Week again. I don't think that's to anybody's surprise. He certainly also was a National Player of the Week. I think he was the, let me get the facts down here so I have them right. What was he? What national player was he? Walter, thank you. Walter Camp. Why don't you tell me? We'll make this easier. It's interactive. The Walter Camp. Except for calling plays, we'll leave that for, you can just write that stuff down. Walter Camp. So obviously some great individual performances, and we did things defensively that allowed us, to find a way to win the football game. Special teams were solid, and we found a running game that allowed us to put together enough offense to win a football game. But again, I'll go back to the fact that, winning's a habit, and our guys have done a lot of things the right way to create winning habits off the field that contributed to finding a way to win the football game. So there's a lot to work on. We've got to coach better. We've got to prepare our football team better. We've got to do a lot of things better. That falls on everybody associated, and that's what we have to work on this week going into UAB. A lot of this will be about our improvement, our preparation, how we get ready to look, if we just get 1% better this week, we'll be a better football team, and that will be our focus. This is a really good football team that we're playing in UAB. As I segue into this weekend's game, it's Senior Day at LSU. We'll have 17 seniors that we'll be honoring. 13 of them have already earned their college degree. Obviously our mission is to graduate champions, and we'll be able to live up to that creed. So kickoff 8 o'clock, a later start for our guys, but they'll certainly go through a similar routine that we've had throughout the year. As I mentioned, last home game at Tiger Stadium, and playing a UAB team that, and first-year head coach Brian Vincent, who's taken over, he had been the OC. They have, one of the best running backs in the country in Dwayne McBride. He's got over 1,400 yards rushing, very accomplished on offense. I think from an overview, what I would say is a very mature team. This is made up of fifth-year seniors. There's a number of sixth-year players on this team. So this is a mature veteran football team that has a very good offensive structure. This is a team that knows what they want to do. They want to run the inside-outside zone play. They want to be play-action pass. Defensively, they're in a 3-down, 4-down structure. It's a well-coached football team. And it's a team that, quite frankly, is better than its record. They've had 3 or 4 losses that could easily be wins, and this could be one of the top teams in the non-Power 5 that would be coming into Tiger Stadium. So this is a challenge. This is a really good challenge for our football team, and we'll have to play well in Tiger Stadium against a really veteran football team. And again, led by Hopkins. Defensively, very productive linebackers in Wilder and Taylor. And again, I think what stands out to me is their run game, their play action pass, and then defensively their ability to move into 3-down, 4-down looks and be multiple. So, again, this is going to be a lot about, our football team being better prepared and then flipping the switch into, better performance on Saturday. So, all you guys.
About just getting 1% better, specifically on the offensive side. After having 3 really good weeks, just kind of what do you want to address on that side of the ball after maybe not playing the way you had against Arkansas?
Yeah, so we were defended quite well, and so I think part of this is understanding what adjustments that we have to make when teams are looking to defend things that have been really good for us. So, we got to make some adjustments. We've got to look at how we're doing things and be, I think, one step ahead, from that perspective. And have some adjustments, do some things that allow us to be effective at what we're good at. And quite frankly, our preparation has to be better. We got to coach better. And I'll put a lot of that on myself in terms of preparing our football team, in particular on the offensive side of the ball.
Coach, outside of Harold Perkins, how much has the flu impacted the team? Do you have some other guys that have caught it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fairly pervasive, throughout the program. I think we've managed it the best we can. But yeah, it's around. I don't know that it had anything to do with our performance on Saturday. We just, we're dealing with it on a day-to-day basis.
First, is that why there was chicken broth on the sideline? And then I wanted to ask a football question.
I prefer clam chowder, but they weren't going to go with the New England style. Obviously the salt, for hydration purposes, and then obviously hot because of the weather. So a combination, Dr. Frakes had put together that with a couple of other elixirs. I think he could have sold it at the State Fair and made a little bit of money as the LSU way of getting you better in the second half. But no, I think all of them had some form of, nutrients that were needed for the guys at that particular time.
And then I wanted to ask, what makes Josh Williams such an effective runner?
Well, he's, first of all, the physicality that he brings, low pads, plays low, strong, physical, and he's so strong. His lower half is so strong. He keeps his legs moving, and once you think you've got him tackled, there's 3 or 4 more yards. Runs to daylight, very effective runner in all those areas. But I think his strength is, his ability to do a little bit of everything for us. Pass protect, catch the ball out of the backfield, and be a strong inside-out runner.
You may not love this with 2 games left to go, but will you or anyone on the staff begin looking at Georgia and starting any type of prep?
No. I mean, I think we'll have plenty of time, to get information on Georgia. And we're pretty much aware of, Georgia and who they are and what they're about. So, our focus will be on UAB and A&M because they matter. Those games, for us in terms of where we are, and the development of our program, these singular games are so important to us. Look, I get the SEC championship game is what it is, right? It gets you one step. But as we're climbing this ladder for us in terms of the development of our program, these games are so pivotal for us in terms of our development. It's crazy to be able to think of anything else but these individual games.
Coach, a couple of things. The 3-man front by Arkansas, do you expect to see that from other teams until you adjust? And 2, as a program, are you ahead of schedule?
We've seen 3 down probably more than any other front. I think what was different is their edges were a little bit more aggressive, and we just simply didn't take advantage of that aggressiveness. And like I said, I think it falls on me, and we've got to prepare our team to be more aggressive to teams that want to play 3 down with the edges being so close. We have talented players on the perimeter, and we've got to get the ball out to them. So that's the answer to question 1. Question 2 was... Yeah, look, I didn't put any wins or losses on this team. I want to play hard. I want to be better in November. I want to teach them how to win. I think we've hit all of those markers, and that's kind of where I wanted this program to be. So I think we're at where we should be at this time.
Yeah, Brian, right here. After the game, Sam Pittman talked about their whole defensive game plan was not to beat gap Sam, was just to blitz and get Daniels on the ground. That's the first time you've seen a defense basically say, we got to stop this guy first.
It was an aggressive defensive game plan that, was unique in that sense, but we have to be better. We have to prepare for those kinds of situations where defenses just say, we're just going to give you everything we got, and what do we have to lose? And it falls on me and our offensive staff to prepare for those kinds of situations, and we'll be prepared, and it won't happen again.
Right up the middle, Coach. Harold's obviously gathering a lot of attention, and rightfully so, but could you speak to his teammates opening him up, freeing
Yes.
him up, and the job that each of them maybe differently are doing to allow him to be so free?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of this has to do with the ability to flush him out, and, that's, BJ and Ali Gay, and certainly, J. Roy probably had his best game of the year. I mean, there's a lot of guys that go into this, right? Mike or Baskerville. I could go on and on with that front. Savion was outstanding. He played with speed and agility. That group up front, Makai Wingo, we've talked about all year, they make a lot of that happen because they flush that quarterback. And then, you got a guy like that can just chase him down. It's pretty impressive that the marriage, if you will, between the two, where you have a group that can get a quarterback outside the pocket and then go chase it down. It's kind of what I talked about from an offensive perspective. It's gotten us thinking about, do you spy Harold now? Like, do you put a spy on Harold? Because, do you have somebody from the running back position try to shadow him? And so we're preparing for all of these eventualities as we kind of move forward.
Josh Williams obviously gotten a lot of claim for his pass protection. You even mentioned it. I mean, over your career, what goes into developing pass protection with the running back? Because I'm sure a lot of those guys didn't think they came here to block.
Yes and no. I mean, look, I understand the question, but I think it's important that running backs clearly understand that if you want to stay on the field, right, you can't be a miss it. I'm going to miss you, right? You're going to be on the field less because you can't pass pro. But what I think makes a really good, first of all, you've got to want to do it, right? You've got to have the technique. But more importantly, it's the ability to read and recognize defenses. Most backs go what we call coast to coast. They start on one side, and then if their read doesn't show, they have to go all the way across and then read the other side. And that's a lot. And so most backs have to be able to do that. And it requires a lot of film study. Coach Wilson has to spend a lot of time with those backs, and they have to watch a lot of film and pick up a lot of different blitzes. And so football intelligence is really important at that position. So in recruiting, we have to make sure that backs have that ability to do it. And Josh is one of them that has a high football IQ.
Coach, when you were building this roster in the offseason, I think you said, we want guys that want to be here as a big priority to the transfer portal and all that. Obviously, they have to have talent and know how to play, but how much is team chemistry and the fact that they seem to be a real tight-knit group played in your success this year?
It's huge. I mean, I don't know that I've ever had a really good football team that didn't like each other. Now, there's going to be a couple of guys here and there that, I'm sure I rub you guys the wrong way. I mean, it's like everybody's going to have a couple of guys like that, but generally speaking, they like each other. And I think it starts because everybody's held accountable to the same level. Like, the best player doesn't get special treatment. Everybody gets treated the same way. And I think when you start with that premise, everybody knows that they're all pulling the same way. And that gradually they start to get closer and closer as a group. And that began in January, and I think it's just kind of been able to build along the way, and they enjoy being around each other. They enjoy the road trips. They enjoy being on the plane. They enjoy being on the bus and in the hotel together, and you can sense that and you can feel it. It's a fun group to be around.
Hey, Coach, was that Greg Penn's best game this year? And then how far along is the linebacker group from camp in week one? I guess specifically Baskerville and Penn and Perkins.
It was easily Greg Penn's best game. Now, we challenged him. Because, as you know, Tolan's on his heels, right? He's coming on. He's making progress. He's doing some really good things. And Greg can feel that. And I love the way he responded to that challenge. He played his best game. He played with physicality. He played with great instincts. And that's what we expect out of him. I think he's got to have a great offseason, which he will in the weight room, and he's going to be a heck of a good player for us. But it's nice to have some young guys that are forcing that issue too. So, yeah, it was really good to see him play the way he did.
Obviously, you inherited this senior class, but you've been with them for a year now. Could you get a little bit deeper on them and just kind of a different year with the COVID years that they've all had? Maybe they're even more mature, more older. So what have they meant to you in this season?
Yeah, so every senior year is a little bit different. A lot of these guys have already graduated. Some haven't graduated. Some may want to come back. Some don't want to, be part of the celebration because they are coming back. They don't want to do it twice. So it's a little bit of both, right? But I can tell you this. What stands out are the stories like Micah Baskerville, who, when I got here, everybody was like, well, he doesn't go to class, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. And he's been amazing. He's gotten his degree. He's been a great leader. He's been inspirational in everything he's done. I love that story. To watch him grow and do the right things in the classroom, to overcome all the things that were in his past, that to me is this senior class. And watching them, become SEC West champions is so gratifying because they made that choice. I mean, they could have been average. They could have been poor. They could have just been good. They've chosen to be champions by the way they've gone to work every day, both in the classroom and on the football field. And that, to me, is this senior day, is the choices that these guys made have been outstanding.
Yeah, Brian, following up actually on Micah, was it for him the key, because he'd had some playing time earlier in his career, but was the key kind of doing all those things off the field in order to actually kind of flourish the way that he has this year and rise back up the depth chart?
Well, I think it was the standards of the program that obviously were set, and he was going to meet and exceed the standards that were set. And then along the way, he started to feel really good about his academics and getting his degree, and it was important to him, and knew that he could be successful both in the classroom and on the football field. So I think empowering him to believe that he could do it and be successful, and then holding him accountable accordingly. And so we gave him the belief and the trust that once he was able to get those things accomplished, he would be a center point in terms of what we did defensively. Good?
Is that it?
One more?
Someone else have the mic. You mentioned Tolan. You only signed 15 high school guys, and I think 6 or 7 are either starting or at least playing a lot.
I would have signed more if we could have.
Right. How impressed have you been with that group, especially considered that you're starting them at really key positions?
Yeah, that freshman class has obviously been a huge piece of this SEC West championship team, right? You've got 2 starting tackles, you've got a tight end, you've got Harold Perkins, you've got Tolan, you've got a number of guys that are playing in roles that are helping us in so many different ways, from Dybert kicking the ball into the back of the end zone on a regular basis. You just go through the roster. That freshman class has been very impactful.
Just quick personal updates. Brian Thomas, John Emery, how are they doing? Then also Garrett obviously seemed available but didn't play. What was sort of the reason behind that?
Brian Thomas should be. Well, I'll know this afternoon, but he went through the next step in the concussion protocol. He was in a concussion protocol from practice. He did very well. We're we're hopeful that if everything goes well today, that he will be in non-contact tomorrow, and then obviously continues to move into contact on Wednesday. The next one was John Emery, fine, just a bruise.
Hey, Coach. One of the unsung heroes this season has been Damian Ramos. What sort of growth have you seen from him this year?
I just think consistency has been, like, when we talk about his growth, we brought him in halfway through camp, right? And so his growth has been so meteor. I mean, it's been a meteor, right? He's gone from not being here to he takes over the starting position. And then I think just consistency, and I think that's kind of pretty big for a kicker, right? Just to be consistent week in and week out. I've really liked his progress. Just every day he comes with the same kind of mindset, and he works on any of the things that that have been an issue, right? If he misses from a particular hash, he's going over and working on that particular skill set. He's very organized, very thoughtful, very intentional in everything that he does. Thank you.
Head coach Brian Kelly with the Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.com. You heard it there. Not looking ahead beyond this week as LSU will host UAB coming up Saturday night with kickoff just after 8 o'clock. Also, congratulations, Harold Perkins Jr., picking up back-to-back SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and was announced just about the time Coach Kelly took to the podium that LSU and Texas A&M will get together at Kyle Field coming up with a 6 p.m. kickoff a week from this Saturday to finish up the regular season of 2022. We'll take a timeout, come back, and wrap it up. The Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.com.
Together, we are partners, setting a new standard for health. Together, we prove that no matter how battle-tested we are, our spirit remains undefeated. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are creating transformational change and impacting Louisiana with a new standard for healthcare, research, and education. Together, Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are champions for Louisiana. Together, we roar. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU.
Welcome back to our podcast here in the Bayous of Louisiana. We are looking for the exclusive multiplier games from the lottery with Louisiana's very first $20 scratch-off and a top prize of $500,000. Wait a tick. We found it! Hold on. What's that sound? I think I'll get a closer look. Wait!
Hey, that's the Explorer! He found the multiplier games!
Thank you, everyone.
Try all 5 multiplier games. You could win up to $500,000. Must be at least 21 to purchase.
Hey, so at Brock, our after-hours clinic is staffed by medical providers skilled in treating a wide range of orthopedic injuries. We're available nights and weekends, 7 days a week as an alternative to the ER. For more information, visit us online at brortho.com.
LWCC celebrates champions of Louisiana, the people, companies, and nonprofits going above and beyond to elevate Louisiana. Champions of Louisiana are all around us. Do you know of one? LWCC wants to tell their story to instill pride and help this great state thrive. Learn more and nominate a champion at lwcc.com/champions. Together, we are Louisiana loyal.
Watch Premier League Soccer and the World Cup at City Slice Pizza and Pints. For early games, City Slice runs a special soccer breakfast menu. So come on down for a pint and catch the game at City Slice Pizza and Pints. Located on Chime Street near the LSU gates. City Slice Pizza and Pints, your spot for soccer this fall.
This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP.
Coming up Thursday, the Brian Kelly Show live from TJ Rims comes your way at 7 o'clock. Then on Saturday, final home game of the regular season. You heard Coach Kelly talk about it. Senior night at Tiger Stadium. We'll get things underway beginning at 6 p.m. with LSU Game Day. Hunt Palmer, Marlon Favorite, Brandon Taylor. And then just after 8 o'clock, Doug Morrow, Gordy Rush will join me for the call of the action, LSU and UAB. Thanks for joining us this week. Be back here next week. Get ready for the final week of the regular season. Thanks to Gordy Rush for his help. And we'll be back here same time, same channel with the Brian Kelly Press Conference delivered by ASAP.
This has been the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Download the ASAP app today.
Anytime. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Hannegriff.
Welcome back into Anytime 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Along with Mario Jerez, Taylor Sharp. Brian Kelly says winning is a habit. I agree. Winning's a habit. Losing's a habit. You get that was really kind of what I took from a lot of what he said today, is that the things that they put in at the beginning of the season were going to take some time, but he wanted to see some progress. He said something that I said back in the preseason, which is I'm not, and it obviously changed, I'm not going into this season thinking that there's a ton of difference between 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, other than what kind of progress you're making on the field. In other words, I expected that this season would be full of 50-50 games. Games against Auburn, games against Florida, games against Arkansas, that these would all be 50-50 games, and LSU would probably split them. That there were only 3 things I felt like going into the season. There were, 4 games that were absolutely locked, and I've already missed one of them because I thought that they would definitely beat Southern New Mexico and UAB, and they would definitely lose to Alabama. All right, so that's already out of the water. And the other 8 games would largely be they would be toss-up games. They would be games where the spread was not over a touchdown, that they could go either way, and that LSU would probably split them in some manner. But that it would be better if at the end of the season you were winning the 50-50 games because you had greatly improved in play. All right, so that was sort of the expectation, was you just get a little bit. He said get 1% better, and that will be progress for next week. Well, obviously they've exceeded all of those expectations, but the reason that they did is, he said, they chose to be champions. Their daily habits in what's going on. And when you think about the daily progress that they've made, have you heard about any off the field problems that this team has? I certainly haven't. Have they been a healthier team than normal? Some of that is luck, but some of it isn't. Some of it is in preparing yourself. The number of soft tissue injuries is down, for instance. The daily habits, those things that you have to do that might, hydration is another one they talk a lot about. Forcing yourself to go through these protocols every single day, the wellness check that he does every day. Like I said, some of this stuff, you get a little bit lucky. I mean, anybody can take a hit the wrong way and tear a ligament, but those preventable things, the things where, you're not sitting there for 6 weeks with a strained muscle or something that just won't heal because you're not taking. They've done all of that. They've done all that stuff. He talked about Micah Baskerville and the commitment he's made academically. Good for him. You put it all together, and there's a word for it. It's called culture. The way we do things around here, and if you're doing things the right way, then at some point it begins to pay off. The tough part is when you're trying to implement all of this stuff and you're not catching a break. Okay, you lose a game that you thought really you should have won, and maybe the Florida State game was that, but it was the only one like that. They fell behind against Mississippi State, but they came on. They fell behind against Auburn, but they came on, and so forth. They fell behind against Ole Miss and came on. They survived a game where their quarterback didn't play very well on Saturday, and they were still good. All of those things build your culture. He's done an excellent job of that. And if during the course of that you had found all of these freshmen that have become standout players, if you had dropped a game somewhere else, well, okay, that's kind of the cost of doing business. They have won all of those games with the exception of Florida State. And while I might have expected that they were going to lose to Alabama going into the season, in August, I thought Tennessee was a toss-up game. I thought Tennessee was going to be good, but I didn't think that they would be as good as they turned out to be. By the way, I didn't see this live, but somebody brought it to my attention that, and it didn't even affect the point spread or the total on the game, but apparently Tennessee punched it in to go over 60 with just a few seconds to go on the clock. I get style points, and I know that Tennessee is going to be trying to win a beauty contest when it comes to getting into the playoff with some other teams, but do they really think that the committee's that stupid that, oh, wait a minute, they scored 66 points. The 59 wasn't enough. There's a great deal of difference in 66 to 24 rather than 59 to 24. It's just Bush League. It's just Bush League. There's no reason to punch it in again, and that would make a decision. If anybody in the committee room says, well, you know what, they won 66 to 24, that's a lot more impressive than 59 to 24. Come on. But I digress. The other thing, another thing that he said that I thought was interesting is he said they may actually they're preparing for teams to have a spy on Harold Perkins. This is a first for me. Okay, I know what a spy does on defense. I don't really know how you spy a guy with like they're going to assign a back to him, as he was talking about that. The point being, and I'm not smart enough with the X's and O's to be able to tell you what a spy does on offense when you're spotlight. I understand giving help on defensive people in a pass rush situation. I certainly understand, hey, if he lines up here and we know he's going to be rushing the passer, we got to give the offensive lineman some help. I certainly get that, but I don't know what you do. Point being that, and something we talked about in the podcast this morning, teams are now game planning for Harold Perkins. This going back about 4 games now, and we've come from the Tennessee game where Perkins wasn't in all the time at the beginning of that game because they were not in something that he was familiar with the defense. To okay, and told you at the time, like, man, look, you can't let teams scheme you into getting your best players off the field. He's not one of LSU's best players. He is LSU's best player. So they got away from that. It's like, look, man, he's going to be on the field all the time. And in the interest of doing that, we're going to put him in some different positions. Now teams are specifically game planning for where he is. We tell you, Kendall Browse with the receiver sets was designed to get him out of the box. And when Arkansas changed quarterbacks, it allowed LSU to get back into a defensive set that was more comfortable for him. Maybe you noticed. Not that he was uncomfortable at any point during the day. So all of that was good. Talks a little bit about Dwayne McBride from UAB, who is a very, very good running back. I'm not going to be hypocritical in this thing. I hate non-conference games in November. These games in September, they're tolerable. Okay, still not what I want, but at least they're tolerable because you're at the beginning of the season. You're finding out things about your team. You're coming out of the football desert because you haven't had football for 6 months. So, you're ready to watch anything like those week 0 games, which most of them are mismatches. And it's football. It's football that counts. So we're watching. By the time you get to November, it's very difficult to get your mind right for LSU and UAB. And UAB is not terrible. They're not great, but they're not terrible either. You might have noticed that the point spread in this thing is just a little over 2 touchdowns. So it's not like LSU's supposed to go into this game and win by 35. They might, but that's not what anybody's expecting. There's a natural letdown factor. They're not an SEC team. Everybody knows this. There's a natural letdown factor. And when it comes this late in the year, it's just kind of unusual. You know what's coming ahead. The next 2 weeks after this, you're going to go to College Station and just get ready for this one. This is Texas A&M's bowl game. Okay, fine, whatever. Been a nightmare over there. Disastrous season. So they'll say that all week. Just get ready for that now. I don't know if it means they're going to play any better, but yes, this will be their bowl game. We're talking about it. did you see the rings? Didn't they make some baseball rings this weekend? Tell me about this. I saw it briefly, but I didn't.
So they were rings for winning the West.
Okay.
In SEC baseball last year.
Western Division rings. Okay. That's fine. These are people that once put commemorative cups out over the 7 overtime game. So they'll pump that up all week next week. This is Texas A&M's bowl game. Like I said, I don't know. And then the week after that, you got the SEC championship game. So getting your mind right, you had Alabama, you had all that emotion. You went up to Arkansas, you knew it was going to be a letdown. You survived that anyway. And then you got A&M with their bowl game, and you got the SEC championship game, and potentially the playoff. Where UAB fitting into the middle of all of this is difficult. Now, it actually may work out well for Jaden Daniels. I don't like anything about this game except the idea that it will allow Jaden Daniels to go back to the Jaden Daniels that we saw most of the last 4 weeks and not the one that we saw in the Arkansas game. The guy in the Arkansas game looked a lot more like the guy from September that was tentative, not trusting, and was worried about turning the ball over. The one we saw the 4 weeks before this was a dynamic playmaker. And I think it's easy enough to get back to that with him. You know, he didn't forget all of this stuff. Let's, for the moment, now he's got to go out and prove it, but let's for the moment just chalk this up to it was a bad game. You got off to a bad start. Things weren't going well. I hate to say, well, it was cold. It's cold, for both the teams. So I don't know that I buy in with that all that much. So a few things out of the Brian Kelly press conference. We will take a break. We'll come back, take your questions, a few more thoughts on some of the things that happened in college football this weekend. We're just going to have to come to the realization that TCU is good. Okay, we're gonna have to make our peace with that because going against them enough weeks and like, why are they a 7.5-point underdog at Texas? That doesn't make any sense. That's a stinky line. No, they won again. Texas didn't score an offensive touchdown in the game. No, TCU's pretty good. That's one of the things had to pull out of this weekend. Take a break. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
We're getting closer to Thanksgiving. As you make your holiday menu plans, make sure to include supreme rice. Support our Louisiana farmers. They've been down in Crowley, Louisiana since the 1930s. All of our supreme rice is grown, milled, and processed right here in Southwest Louisiana. So when you're in your local AG food stores, your Costco's, your Walmarts, and of course Rouse's, where you can stop on your way in for tailgating and pick up supreme rice. Make it supreme rice for your next meal. If it's going to be a big holiday gathering, we do that a lot. You're going to stretch your food dollar with supreme rice, whether it's the brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine. Supreme rice is perfect for your gumbos, for your red beans, for your stews, for your etouffees. Make it supreme rice. For more information and some unique recipes, go to the website at supremerice.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana Products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana Barbecue Sauce, Louisiana Molasses Mustard, Spicy and Sweet Barbecue Rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana.
Join me, Jimmy, out at Charles Handegriff. Monday, 6 to 8 p.m., we're at Spoken Hub Restaurant on Government Street in Mid-City. We recap the weekend pro and college football. Game time presented by Bet Rivers on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hanegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Can I throw this question out there? I'm going to throw it to you guys, throw it to the guys in the chat. Was Justin Jefferson's catch yesterday the greatest catch you have ever seen?
I would say it's the best catch I've ever seen. The situation in the game, the degree of difficulty, it being contested, I don't think I've seen a better catch.
Yeah, absolutely.
4th and 18 with the game in the fourth quarter, game's on the line, and he goes up and he's got at least. So the first catch that I think of is Beckham's catch on Monday Night Football when he was playing for the Giants, and that was a full extension. Get your hand, reel it back in, but there was no defender. Okay, this catch, Jefferson is also fully extended with one arm, and the defender's got two hands on it. Okay, and this is Buffalo, New York in November. Guessing it's not the easiest place to catch a football at this point, and you're playing what going into the season everybody thought was the best team in football, but today is the number 6 seed if the playoffs started today in the AFC. So it's a pretty significant game, and your team is going to lose if you miss it. I haven't seen any. Better. Before Beckham's catch, which is just the most unbelievable thing, some of the catches that I think of when I think of the great catch, of course, you think of David Tyree in the Super Bowl, the helmet catch. I mean, that's up there. And if you watch the old highlights of the Pittsburgh Steelers when Lynn Swann was there, Lynn Swann in Super Bowl 10 made catches that have lived in pro football lore forever. But from degree of difficulty, the circumstances, I don't know that there's been any better. Okay, we could talk about some of the great catches. Jarvis Landry made a catch here. It ended up being the last pass that Mettenberger ever threw at LSU because he got hurt on the play, and it was against Arkansas in Tiger Stadium. And I still swear that Jarvis Landry put his hands through the defender's body and caught the ball. It was Jarvis Landry made more than one great catch against Arkansas. He made that one in Tiger Stadium. He also made one on a post route in Fayetteville. That was a fantastic catch. But yesterday for Jefferson, man, that was really something. There's a stat that they use. This is the Generation Z, I think, stat service. That he caught 9 balls yesterday that he was not supposed to catch. Like they actually measure whether or not you're supposed to catch this ball, the percentage that you're going to catch this ball. and 9 of the catch. Nobody else has got more than like 3 the whole year in a single game. He had 9 yesterday. He had more than right at 100 yards more. They do it's kind of like wins above replacement in baseball, where they do yards above what you're expected to get, and he had almost 100 yards more than what your average receiver would get. Yeah, he's about to get paid a ridiculous amount of money. But think about that, 9 balls that when they leave the quarterback's hand are not supposed to be caught, and he caught 9 more balls than he was expected to. Bama Southern Miss catch. Yeah, that was oh gosh, I'm trying to remember the receiver. He was the one that had that career-ending injury.
Yeah, Tyron Prothrow.
Yeah, Prothrow. Yeah, he pretty much went through that was a fantastic, and his career basically ended on that catch. It was one of those grotesque, leg bent the wrong way, but yeah, he did. That was terrific. Okay, some of the questions out of the chat. Why didn't LSU claim the 1908 national championship? I've asked this question of LSU officials before, and I got this answer. A very firm and decisive, we just don't. And yeah, there's a story going around. I was not around, by the way. There's a story going around that some of those players were professionals. Look, I got no context here. I've read about the 1908 team, but I don't know anything more than just what I've read. I mean, Doc Fenton was considered the best player in LSU history for about 50 years. It was him and then Steve Van Buren and then, of course, Billy Cannon. But so I know that. But I asked the question, we just don't. And I asked, I said, well, is this kind of because Alabama is, claims? So, yeah, we don't want to be like that. But no, that's not the reason. We just don't. So I wish I had a better answer for you than that. But that's what I was told. I asked it years ago. Chris has got an interesting question. It says, has LSU ever tried Keyshawn Boutte as a punt returner? The answer is no, but I don't hate the idea. In fact, since I read that, I've been kind of warming to the idea all throughout the break. Boutte has occasionally been a kickoff returner. He has 80 yards in kickoff returns for his career, but I think at the beginning of the season, if you had said, hey, why don't they run Boutte back there at punt returner, before the season, I would have said, I'm not wild about the idea. He's your best player. He's your most important offensive player. And he's coming off of a major injury that required 2 surgeries. So no, I'm not interested in putting him in that position. But now, he's sort of been one of a group of receivers. He has, he's had a few moments here and there, but he has not had the type of year that you would expect, but he has been healthy. And with the SEC championship game coming up and looking for more ways to get the ball in his hands, I like the idea. I don't know how he would feel about it. They're not getting anything out of the punt return game right now. And he's, he's still Keyshawn Boutte. He's still, a fantastic talent. I don't hate that idea at all. I definitely don't hate that idea. So we'll see. They haven't really, suggested that might be a possibility. But if they're going to do it, this is the week. Let him get out, let him get back there, let him catch a couple of punts, let him do it against Texas A&M. Then you got him in the SEC championship game. You never know. He could make a play that changes the whole landscape. I mean, it definitely could happen. Some of the other things for the weekend in college football, I told you I was just blown away with what Cadillac Williams has been able to do for the. Can I say the psyche, the attitude at Auburn? Have you ever seen in Auburn that fan base is a lot like the Alabama fan base, the LSU fan base, Georgia fan base. I'm not going to say Florida because they're way too fair weather. They're going to hang with your team, but they expect championships there. And this has been a disaster of a season. They fired the coach. To be able to turn around the attitude like that blew me away. I was not expecting that kind of enthusiasm. I thought they might be Texas A&M because I think Texas A&M is terrible. but I didn't think that you would see that kind of I didn't think you'd see that kind of offense or that kind of attitude turnaround. Other things from the weekend, you catch Packers and Cowboys yesterday. Can you read lips? Either one of you guys read lips really well? Anybody that can read lips, I'd like to know what Aaron Rodgers was saying, because it didn't seem like it was suitable for the airwaves. Probably, he looked like he was a little bit upset, I would say, yesterday. Vikings and Bills was maybe the game of the year. That of all the times I've seen teams get backed up inside the 1 yard line and punching it out, you almost never see it result in a fumble that ends up costing your team the game. This is inside the 1 yard line, and Josh Allen never gets the snap. I hate when teams for short yardage go into the shotgun and you have to hand the ball to a back that's standing pretty much flat-footed, and he's got to go 4 or 5 yards before he ever gets to the line of scrimmage, and then he needs to get a yard. It allows for too much penetration. But in that case, if they had gone into the shotgun from there and just tried to, throw something short and trust Josh Allen enough that if there's any type of chance that he could turn the ball over, he just chucks it out of bounds. I guess hindsight's 20/20 in that case, because I certainly didn't expect Allen to fumble a ball there. But what a turn of events! The last 4 minutes of Vikings Bills and the overtime was as entertaining as anything that you will see in the NFL probably all year. And the Germany game was fun to watch because they were so into it. That crowd was so into it. It's just the first time ever in Germany, obviously. And I'm sure that some fan over there was just learning the game, looked up and said, why'd they let the running back throw the football to the quarterback there? Because that play didn't work out real well. I'm guessing that's the last pass that Leonard Fournette's ever going to throw, and hopefully that's the last pass route we ever see Tom Brady run. Thanks to everybody for participating. Stay tuned for Hunt and Hill. For Taylor Sharp, for Mario Jerez, I'm Charles Henniger saying thank you and good afternoon. It's been Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
So many business owners are having problems with staffing right now. It takes an enormous amount of your time between the interviews, the background checks, the screening, all of the payroll expenses that you have that comes along with it. It would be wonderful to have somebody take this off of your plate. Let Tiger Labor and Staffing do just that. The screening, the training, the payroll, they will take care of all of these things, not just the interview process and the background checks, but the onboarding as well. So it's not going to be another deal where you're scheduling a bunch of interviews and half of your interviewees don't even show up. Whether you need somebody for a day, a week, or a month, Tiger Labor and Staffing will help you control your labor expenses. They'll increase your flexibility, and it's fantastic for seasonal employees. Right now during the holiday season, if you need some extra help, you can get your staffing done, and attempt to hire options only 60 days. That's the lowest in the industry. If you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcome skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits. Very quick turnarounds on your pay. So get your work done without the worries. Tiger Labor and Staffing. Success begins with the eye of the tiger. Go to tigerlabor.com.